In this video, I will briefly explain all the actions contained in the auto-isolate set. You should already be familiar with the principles of automatic isolation that I've introduced during the course, but practice makes perfect, and there are two actions that are new in the set. I've created them just recently and added as a nice little bonus. Once again, the automatic isolation is basically clicking around the image with the magic wand, but not around the original image, but an enhanced one, where the edges are more definite thanks to the algorithm utilized by the script. You can use automatic isolation on any images you are theoretically able to isolate with the magic wand. It means that if the object is really blending with the background or is made of fur, it won't work. But in product image retouching, we mostly deal with smooth objects, so why not speeding up the whole process of isolation instead of clicking manually with the magic wand? The first action in the set, which is called auto-isolation, is the most basic. It clicks twice, once in the upper left corner, once in the lower right. You should use it on objects surrounded with the background. It doesn't require anything, just make sure the image is open and run the action. It will select the background and fill it with white. All you have to do after that is either restore the shadow or cut it out completely if you're going for the total white isolation. Actually, if you don't need a shadow, the image should not have any shadows in the first place, because no action will let you eliminate all the shadows flawlessly. If the image is very big, like this one, the action might take a while to work, so cropping it would reduce the time required for the action to run. If you don't want to crop, at least make a rectangular selection around the object. It will also speed things up. Just like this, select with the marquee tool and run the action. The action only clicks around the image, so if you want to isolate something inside, you'll have to do it manually. And here's how you have to do it if you want to use the same action. Select the whole thing with the marquee tool, and then use the magic wand while holding Alt to subtract from the selection. Now everything is selected but the space within the handle. Run the action and it will be properly isolated around and inside. The next action in the set is called Auto-Isolation Color Check 200. Unlike the first action, this action checks before clicking with the magic wand, and it checks for the color of the pixels where it is going to click. And if the color is darker than 200 on average in RGB, it will not click there and it will proceed to the next clicking spot. This object is not surrounded with the background, and if I run the basic auto-isolation action, it will make a hole in the upper left corner and isolate the area in the lower right corner only. That's no good, but if I run the color check action, it will isolate all the background filled areas properly and it won't click on the object. However, if the background is too dark, that is, lower than 200 on average, the action won't click at all after trying to click 8 times in each corner and in the middle of each side around the image. The next action in the set, which is called Auto-Isolation Threshold, is useful when the object's edge is not smooth and well-defined for the normal action to work properly. It happens in two cases. The first case is when the edge is barely visible. These boots are very tricky to isolate with the magic wand or with the normal action. But when you run the third action, you get a threshold prompt and you need to get a closed contour of the object by increasing the threshold level. Try 251 and you'll see that the isolation is pretty decent for something that took only a couple of seconds to happen. However, don't expect any magic, and if you need to go higher than 253 in the threshold prompt, the background will be too messed up to be isolated properly. Use the pen tool when your objects are blending with the background. Don't waste your time. The threshold action can be also used to eliminate shadows around when the objects are dark and well defined, when you need a total white isolation without any shadows. The gloves here cannot be properly isolated with the regular action because there are nasty shadows and the background is very dirty. But if I run the threshold action and put 230 in the threshold prompt, it will be much better. Now on to the manual mode actions. There are two of them, part 1 and part 2. What they do is very simple. This flat lay looks pretty normal, but the regular action eats it away, and the threshold action doesn't work so well either. If I go as high as 253, the background won't be isolated perfectly. Time to try the manual mode. I'll run the manual mode part 1 action and it will give me the same threshold prompt, only it will stay after I press OK. Now it's time for me to find the gaps and fill them manually. I'll use a black brush for that. Now the magic wand won't be able to click through and the action won't fill the flat lay with white. As for the background trash, that much will be handled by the action. I'll run the manual mode part 2 and get a decent isolation. That's it. The last action in the set doesn't fill anything with white, it just clicks around and get your image selected. You get a selection instead of isolation. After that, you can run an isolating action or do anything else you need. The selection is not modified, that's basically what you get when clicking around with the magic wand. If there is some stuff on the background that gets in the way, you can make a rectangular selection around your object and everything that's out will be filled with white automatically. Personally, I prefer the auto-isolation threshold action because it lets me isolate images in a nick of time, especially when the objects are dark and solid and when the background is far from perfect. A few seconds is all it takes. If you think I could have done it faster with the quick selection tool, well, think twice. The side of the bottle blends with the background and it cannot be selected properly, at least not with this tool. Getting the hang of the threshold of what number to use in the prompt might take time, but at least there's a preview and you know you need to get a closed outline of the object, and the action will take care of the rest. The best thing about all the actions from the set is that they don't make a mess in the history. Every action is exactly one step, and you can undo the whole isolation by pressing Ctrl-Z if it didn't work so well, and try again. Just beware that the isolation is edge-based, and if the edges of the object are barely visible, don't waste time and use the pen tool. There is no magic in Photoshop.